to cover one common base running mistake I see on fly balls with less than 2 outs, and we're going to cover one mistake from first base, one from second, and then we're going to cover one that we often see at third base. All right, now first base to begin with here, most of the time, okay, and there's always, every rule that we have in this game, there's always an exception, but most of the time, when I'm at first base and we get a fly ball, I'm going to expand as much as I can and still be able to get back to the bag. All right, some coaches use the terminology of halfway, some talk about expanding. You know, there's different ways that coaches are saying it, but ultimately what they're telling you is we want to get as much as we can so that if the ball was to drop, all right, we can advance as far as possible, whether that means advancing to second base, advancing to third, or potentially, you know, even scoring on something that's pretty deep. But I see a lot of base runners, they don't get nearly as much, they don't expand near as much as what they could. So, you know, we'll see a ball that's hit, you know, let's say relatively deep into left center, and the base runners at first base are about 20, 25 feet off the bag, and they're just holding, okay, and watching the play. And so ultimately, if the outfielder, you know, misses the ball, misjudges it, loses it in the sun, trips and falls and the ball drops, I mean, anything that could happen, all right, all of a sudden they're stuck at second base, okay? Ultimately, what we want to do there is we want to try to get as much as we can, and a lot of times, that means that we're going to get all the way to the bag, see the play, and if the ball's caught, we can turn around and sprint back. All right, but we want to get as much as we can. All right, one thing to make sure that you understand as a base runner, because you know once or twice every season, I'll often see an opponent do this. If I happen to think a ball's going to drop, and I round the second base bag, and that ball's caught, when I go back, I have to make sure that I retouch the bag before heading back to first base, okay? I'll often see guys round the bag, all right, and then cut it coming back, or sometimes even a guy will cross the bag and then they will step over top of it coming back, okay? Always make sure if you're the base runner, if you pass that bag and the ball's caught, make sure you retouch on the way back. But we got to make sure that we're getting, when we expand, we're getting as much as we can in case that ball drops. Now we're the runner at second base. The mistake that I commonly see at second base on a fly ball is when we have nobody out. Okay, now when we have nobody out, there's a good chance that if the ball's deep enough, we're going to go back and tag. Okay, because our goal, we want to make sure if that ball's deep enough, we can tag and advance to third base so that we can be at third base with one out, and the next guy can drive us in, whether it's with a sac fly, a base hit, a ground ball to the middle of the infield that scores us. All right, but our goal is we got to make sure that we can get to third base with one out. All right, the mistake that I see is when there's nobody out and we're thinking tag, we still can't tag if the ball's not deep enough. Okay, I'm not going to go back, and even with nobody out, I'm not going to go back and tag if that ball's too shallow to where I can't go. Okay, I need to make sure if the ball's not deep enough for me to tag, whether it's shallow right field, the ball to the left fielder, shallow center, whatever that is, I need to make sure I expand in those situations. Okay, I'm almost going to treat those situations like we've got a one-out situation, whereas if we have one out, we're far more likely to expand than to tag. Doesn't mean that we'll never tag with one out, all right? There are circumstances where we will, all right? But we're more likely to expand with one out, but go back to tag with no outs. We just have to make sure that if we're gonna tag, it's a ball that we have a legitimate chance to advance to third when that ball's caught. The third mistake that I commonly see is as the runner at third base with less than 2 outs. All right, and it's often in the base runner's initial read. All right, we're going to be in our primary lead, and obviously we would be taking our secondary lead. On contact, we have to understand that if we see the ball headed upward off the bat, we are immediately starting back to the bag. Doesn't matter if we think the ball's hit in the gap. Doesn't matter if we think it's a long fly ball, a shallow fly ball, When we see the upward contact, we immediately start back to the bag and react from there. If the ball is to drop, we can basically walk home. We're going to score easy. But I see way too many times where a guy will smoke a line drive into the outfield, and because the ball's hard hit, the guy on third starts taking off for the plate. All of a sudden the outfielder makes a nice catch, or maybe the ball's hit right at him. Now the guy's got to turn around and sprint back to the bag when he should be scoring on a sac fly. All right, so we're the base runner at third. We've taken our secondary. As soon as we see that upward contact, we immediately start back to the bag. Okay? Then we can tag if the ball's deep enough. If the ball falls, obviously we can go ahead and score. Or if it's a real shallow fly ball where we got no chance to advance, well, we started back to the bag, but we can always get back out into a little bit of a secondary and expand some, so that if it drops in shallow center field, we've got 70 feet to run instead of 90 feet, okay? But the initial read is usually the mistake that I see, all right? As soon as you see that upward contact, immediately start back. We can always react from there.